Really, it beats logic that a country so blessed like ours lives in penury and relies on import for basic necessities. Steelmakers in the country are miffed that after spending $8 billion as estimated by the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria on the massive but idle Ajaokuta Iron and Steel plant in Kogi State, Nigeria imported iron, steel and metals valued at 837.76 billion naira in the third and fourth quarters of 2021. So the steelmakers are skeptical about the planned concession of the company by the federal government. We have been on that road before and that it has taken us nowhere. BKO, let me have the two of you weigh in on this matter before we go to our guest who will be joining us via Zoom. There have been claims that we were producing, but it's clear we're busy importing. So what's happening to the steel sector? Why are we still at this juncture?
Yes, because we chose not to do what is right. If you go to Ajaokuta Steel complex, because I've been there, honestly, you could burst into tears. I've never seen a company that big. Huge company with overgrown weeds all over the place. You see giant equipment, giant loading bays everywhere overtaken by weeds. And I'm like, what's going on? How could we don't have enough supply of the steel that we need, yet we can allow such a monumental company to simply rot away. What is wrong in saying, okay, we privatize? If we cannot manage it, if corruption and other issues won't let us manage it properly, we can privatize. So that it does not just lie fallow, lie in ruins like that. But you need to see the pictures. You need to see Ajaokuta the way it is. I learned that when the governor of Kogi State went there, he burst into tears. Honestly, you weep for our country that we had such a treasure, yet we are just wasting away. Successive governments have not shown, in my view, the willpower to revive the Ajaokuta Iron and Steel complex. I was thinking that, okay, under this regime, they will do something different. But we are talking about concessioning. People are saying concessioning, they tried concessioning in the past, it didn't work. And some people are suggesting that, look, if you must concession, don't concession to a company or to foreigners who have steel infrastructure and all that in their country, that they could sabotage us from within another. I don't know what's the best, but I hope that one day that company can be revived, because we are importing so much steel, and steel is extremely expensive now. If you are building either a bridge or your own house, the cost of reinforcement will drive you crazy.
Probably that's the reason we're having, buildings that are collapsing, because
because people will cut corners, because reinforcement is very expensive, so people will not want to buy enough, or buy if you are supposed to buy 16 mm, maybe they will go and buy 12 mm.
Well, there are different different areas within the Ajaokuta. There are one building materials. There are some that are actually smithing iron and all that. But is there anything really working in that sector? That company generally.
If it is working, we won't be here talking about it. If it is working, government will not be considering concession. You see, the steel sector is one area Nigeria was receiving kudos in years past. As a youth corps member, I served in Katsina State. I was opportune to take a tour of Katsina Steel Rolling Mill. You need, like BKO said, you need to see. Nigeria governments in the past or whatever must have invested heavily in that sector. I've been to the one in Osogbo too, on excursion as a secondary school.
It's overgrown by weeds now. Go there.
I know that the one in Katsina too, I'm sure it's not functioning. I've not heard much about it in recent
times. Let's try and sit down one in Osogbo.
I was there as a secondary school student to visit. Now, Ajaokuta, I went there as a journalist. when this government took over. You know, it is one of those things this administration campaigned with. You know, it's painful when you sit back and look at the pre-2015 years and the high hopes we had in this administration. I am not sorry to say, aside insecurity, this is another area my disappointment in the current administration is it's almost fulfilling. You know, when you are fulfilled in disappointment. It is sad that we have such a complex. The question I want to ask about concession when I saw it was, why didn't we just concession immediately we came in 7 years ago? Why didn't we just do that? For 7 years, we budgeted for reconstruction, revamping. Every year, check the budget. You find new English word still on Ajaokuta, and the figures keep going up. It started with reconstruction. We moved to revamping. There was no what we've not used. Refurbishing. Today, it is concessioning.
Yeah.
And you know what that means? We want to hand off it and give it to those who can try. For 7 years, taxpayers' money went to it. For 7 years, people were drawing salaries and wages and extra codes on this. I think it's unfortunate that we are still here talking about Ajaokuta. It is sad.
Absolutely sad. You know, BKO, we're trying to establish connection with our guests who will be joining us via Zoom. But BKO, before we have our guests, we've done this concession before. Why does anyone think it's going to benefit anyone at the end of the day? Who are those benefiting in it in the first place? And why do we think this is the way to go again?
Okay, there is nothing wrong in concession in the real sense of the word. Concessioning is good. Build, operate and transfer is good. I also think that government has not got the funds to throw at all of these problems. So you have to find a way to collaborate with the private sector, either through concessioning or through build, operate and transfer. They can build from the scratch and then transfer ultimately. Angola just built a brand new refinery on a BOT basis. So since we are running out of funds, we need to bring in the private sector, get them more involved, especially in infrastructure delivery. We are not going to find enough money to fix all our roads, to build new ones. You know, we are not going, if not for Abacha loot, for example, and funds kept in the sovereign wealth fund, we would not have been able to do the second Niger bridge, because we had to divert Abacha loot to it, to Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, and we had to use funds from the sovereign wealth fund. We had to take money from the sovereign wealth fund to execute those gigantic projects. Because what is the budget of the Ministry of Works in a year? The budget of the Ministry of Works is, the maximum they can get is maybe like 500 billion. Sometimes 400 and something billion. And one of those projects could be even close to that entire sum in terms of delivering it.
Yeah. Dari, well, some have actually advocated, some experts have actually advocated that it should be privatized at the end of the day. But then if you look at Ajaokuta, there is a massive housing project, a machine shop where machines are fabricated, and also a section producing construction materials. So should we rather unbundle it before privatization?
Maybe that's a way to go, because when you talk about privatization, concessioning and all the likes, I have my fears, and it's from experience. A national newspaper company was privatized, and at the end of the day, it was as if we gave it to people who had other motives.
Yeah.
Our
asset stripping.
I didn't want to. You see, people, and you are mentioning gigantic structures in Ajaokuta. Some people may just have their eyes on these things. calculate what they will get from selling some of these things, and then they will come for it. If we find ourselves,
we have invested too much on the project to
just give to anybody.
If you see even the quarters that they built for the staff,
quarters.
Oh,
you need to, and then the facilities there alone.
Yeah.
If we talk about unbundling, maybe it will help. Look at what is happening in our electricity sector.
Let me hold your thoughts. Let's bring in our guest who is joining us from Abuja for more insight into the discussion. Is the senator representing Kogi West Senatorial District at the National Assembly, Smart Adeyemi. Thank you very kindly for joining us on Journalist Hangout on Sunday. Well, we've spent $8 billion, and now we are talking about 837.76 billion naira in the third and fourth quarters of 2021 to import steel. What do you make of this, latest report and things happening around Ajaokuta? Is it a jinxed sector?
Well, let me thank you for bringing me to this program. It's most unfortunate that Ajaokuta Iron and Steel complex seems to be abandoned. It is inexplicable and it's almost unpardonable. When you take a look at the history of Ajaokuta Iron and Steel complex, when it was constructed, the construction started, the blueprint for the project was to employ 10,000 technicians in the first phase. It was to be constructed in 3 phases, and each of the phases to take 10,000 workers each. The non-technical staff that is being proposed in the concept of this project was to absorb 60,000 non-technical staff. Apart from the fact that this is a project that will improve our foreign exchange earnings and create job opportunities for Nigerians. 7 years down the running, it's as if this project is going to be eventually abandoned. For me, I have reservation about the decision of the federal government to go to embark on concession of this project. We know what happened in time past to projects and sectors that had similar proposals. For me, I think if the federal government is finding it difficult to go ahead with this project, the honorable thing to do will be to hand over this project to Kogi State government. I think we must face the reality that Nigeria is a federation, and I think we are facing the reality now more than ever before. In Kaduna State, the state government established a steel plant with about $600,000 loan facility, but again, it's completed. So if you allow Kogi State government to take over Iron and Steel complex, it's going to work, and people, Nigeria will still benefit from it. It is inexplicable for us to have iron ore and we are importing steel. Why are buildings collapsing in Nigeria? It's because people are cutting corners because of the high cost of importing. Now it's going to be more difficult in this country because our currency is collapsing almost on a daily basis. So the situation now is we must look inward. Our budget must be targeted at wealth creation, job creation, not for expenditures. Today, the budget that we have is more for expenditures. We are not talking about job creation. We are not talking about wealth creation. You can't just explain it. This is a plan that will earn the nation foreign exchange earnings within West Africa, Africa, and outside Africa itself. Apart from the fact that Nigeria is a huge market for steel consumption.
Well, you advocate that Kogi State government should take over the project, but then we know that Senator, can you hear me?
Pardon?
As Kogi State,
I can hear you now.
As Kogi State got the financial wherewithal, given the sheer size of that complex.
The Kogi State government will get foreign support. Investors will come in, and the passion at which the Kogi government will go into it will be different from the way the federal government is treating this project. It's something in our state, and we have a government that is determined to revolutionize the state. If you hand over Iron and Steel complex to Kogi State government, what they need to do is to it is just inexplicable for 7 years. Like you said, you feel you have
Afraid that we're having connectivity
staff
issues with
housing
you.
scheme already complete.
I'm afraid we're having
If you go
connectivity
there,
issues
you will
with
see them manufacturing items. I was at Ajaokuta Iron and Steel complex. Hello?
Go ahead. You're making a point.
Hello?
We can hear you.
Hello? Can you hear me? Yeah, what I'm saying is that if you look at the potentials of Iron and Steel complex in Ajaokuta, it is just inexplicable for project to be abandoned the way it is. You can't just explain it. In fact, you will wonder if Nigeria is governed by colonial masters, because this is what will create wealth for our nation, create job opportunities, increase our capacity for technological development, and we are abandoning the project. Is it not better for the federal government to ask the state government to take over the project? It is better. When you talk about concession, it's giving our collective wealth to the hands of some opportunists. We have seen those things in time past. Has it worked in Nigeria? Has concession worked in this country? It will be handed over through some policy, through some opportunists in Nigeria, through some people who will collect our collective wealth at the expense of majority. So I think the time has come for us to speak out. Iron and Steel complex should be allowed to be handed over to Kogi State government, and I'm not in doubt that it's going to work, because the passion, the commitment will be different from what the federal government is doing. How come Kaduna State government was able to complete a steel plan? Because of the passion, because they know this is their own project. If the federal government is finding it difficult to complete this project, hand it over to the state where this project is located, and we're going to get it started. We're going to get it completed. I was at that complex some weeks back. Let me tell you, they manufactured crusher machine. 95% of the raw materials came from Ajaokuta Iron and Steel itself. Now, the question is, if they produce 300 of those crushers I saw they produce in Ajaokuta, it will bring down the cost of building materials, because the stones will be available for you to do construction. But some people will not want it. Some people will want a situation where there is scarcity. People will have to be paid through their nose, and this is the resultant effect of collapsing of buildings, poor purchasing power of our currency. We are not producing; we are just consuming. So how do you explain it? This is a complex that was conceived to employ 90,000 workers, next to the one in South Korea that presently is employing between 150 to 170,000 workers. The one in South Korea is modeled. The one in Ajaokuta is modeled after the one in South Korea, and the one in South Korea is the fourth largest steel plant in the world. Now Ajaokuta would have been maybe the fifth, but you can't just explain. Do you have foreign interference? Nobody can answer that question. I am a member of the Senate Committee on Solid Minerals of the Senate, and I know we have discussed Iron and Steel complex Ajaokuta more than 20 times, and every year they are underfunded. Yes, provisions are made, but the provisions are not just enough to even pay staff salary. If you go there, you ask the question, what is the problem? These raw materials are there, the workers are there, competent staff are there, but nobody is funding them. Nobody wants this Iron and Steel complex to take off. For me, I think it's a big problem for Nigeria. One of the greatest challenges of our government today is to provide jobs for people. There are young graduates trooping out. We have many institutions of learning trooping out millions of graduates. You have Iron and Steel complex that is capable of employing 90,000 both skilled and unskilled workers, and yet we don't bother about it. Not to talk of the fact that we needed to be creating wealth now to improve our currency, our foreign exchange earning. No, we don't have to be economists to know that if you are not producing, you get nothing. Nigeria is just a consuming nation. We are not ready to produce, and you can't explain it, because God has endowed us with everything that is required to make our nation great. This Iron and Steel complex is good enough for even West African nations to hold on to, not to talk of our nation. It will be generating between $7 to $10 billion every year for our nation, and yet we don't bother. So the question is, what are the obstacles? Who are the problem of this country? Who are those people who don't want Nigeria to move forward? Is it the colonial masters? Is it the colonial master, or within our nation? Are there people who don't want this country to move forward? These are the fundamental questions we have to ask. Iron and Steel complex is crucial.
Distinguished Senator, if you can hear me.
Go ahead with the question.
Can you hear me, distinguished Senator? I want you to paint the picture. I want you to paint. I want you to paint a picture of how you felt when you went into that place, seeing the whole area covered by...
My brother, if you visit Iron and Steel complex, you'll be, in fact, if you are a patriotic Nigerian, you will feel like shedding tears for our country. In fact, you'll be asking questions, what is the problem with our leaders? That's the question that will come to your mind. It is just inexplicable, it's unpardonable. You can't just explain what are the problems. This is a complex that is producing. One of the reports I did in my first age as a journalist was...
Yeah, I'm afraid we're having, connectivity issue one way or the other, but definitely we will try to, establish all of these, reconnection back to him. But so one of the things that he said, because I was just going to ask him, government has no business in business. If you're asking the federal government to hand it over to Kogi State government, then we begin to talk about the issue of leadership. So how are we so sure that if it's still within the hands of government, things will work out rather than privatizing it?
He's only offering an alternative. You see, before he came on, we also expressed our concerns about concessioning. When you give such state-owned projects or properties to some Shylock businessmen, they come in with this feeling of they're coming to make profit. That is if they don't strip us of all the assets. And the fear is there. However, still talking about handing it over to God, I also have my fears. Especially when you look at individuals who are in power. You begin to worry. If you have a governor who is patriotic, who is forward-looking, if you have somebody like the Tinubu we had in Lagos in 1999, when he came in, doing with so much zeal, he had the roadmap of what he wanted to do, he saw the problems. If you have someone like that in Kogi State today, I will voluntarily and willingly and happily say, yes, let's try that. A trial, I would say. But let's try that. It may just be what we need. But where you still have people battling to pay salaries, where you cannot, you can't find a government that can tar community roads. Okay? You know what Ajaokuta entails. It is not a small project.
Absolutely.
It is not a project you want to do a year with. It's not something you want to gamble with. It's a project that, if not properly managed and is given to the state, it can consume the entire earnings of the state and other sectors.
That's why he said that the state government would need
but even in getting foreign partnership, the zeal, that political will to get it done.
I think we have
must be there.
I think we have Senator Smart Adeyemi back. Senator, if you can hear me, we see solutions staring us in the face.
No, he was let him. He was
painting a picture of what he saw.
Absolutely. Try to land on your point you were making earlier.
You were talking about when you went there as a journalist.
No, I was talking about when I went there. Look, it's not as if the plant is totally dead. They are still doing some skeletal services. They are underfunded in the first instance. When you get there and you go around the plant, you will ask the question, what is the problem of our nation? Because everything that is required to make the plant to function is there. Even the first phase that is almost completed is enough to generate. Don't forget, before it was sold to the Indians, Iron and Steel complex was producing some building producing cables and wires. They can no longer do that now because there's no funding for them. There's no funding. So it's a problem. The issue is we must have the political will. We must summon the political will to execute this, to complete this project. There are some people who believe that there are some foreign powers who do not want Nigeria to complete the complex. But we are an independent nation. When you go to Ajaokuta Iron and Steel and you look at the number of houses that have been completed, Ajaokuta is a community within a community. It's a town of its own. Ajaokuta is bigger than Metama in Abuja. Ajaokuta can be compared with Metama and Wuse together. It's a huge place. But you ask the question, why are they not producing? They are not producing because they are underfunded. And you ask the question, why is it so? We have made request, from the Senate special request to the executive to fund Iron and Steel Complex, nothing is happening. Nobody is talking about it. Now they came with the joker of concession. You and I know that concession is not what will work in Nigeria, because people are not patriotic about whatever they are investing. People want to take the collective wealth of others. But they forget the fact that the rich man will die the way the poor man will die in the first instance. And when the people get to a point and they have nothing to do, they will revolt. We must guard against what can lead to serious unrest in our nation. We have a huge problem of unemployment. We have a problem of a poor state of our economy. What we need to do is to work towards wealth creation, expanding scope of generating revenue, not just taxing the people, but adding value to the life of the people. And if that is done, Iron and Steel Complex is good enough to bridge the gap of the materials that are needed in construction industry, both building and roads. Why are buildings collapsing? Why is it that we are still importing? They told me in Iron and Steel Complex that all the materials that have been imported for the rail lines in Nigeria, the rail and the sleepers, can be produced in Ajaokuta Iron and Steel Complex. And I asked them, why was it not produced in Nigeria? They said, well, they didn't provide the funding for them. So you ask, what's our problem as a nation? Is it for us to be creating jobs for other nations at the expense of our own nation? Now, when we talk this way, people say we are not patriotic. But I think the way to be patriotic is to highlight the problems, the shortcomings, so that we can improve upon them and move our nation forward and make this country a country which every one of us will be proud to say we are Nigerians. There are a lot of graduates are trooping out every day. More universities are being registered. Polytechnics. Where will this graduate be working? Iron and Steel Complex is fundamental for economic development. It's fundamental for the technological takeoff of Nigeria. It's crucial to our life.
All right, Derek has a question for you.
It is what is required for Nigeria to move from a developing nation to a developed nation.
You express fear about funding, because from listening to you, it's like you feel, I am beginning to think that you feel that funding the complex is actually the problem and not any other thing. Are you now considering the idea of public-private participation? By this I mean, why are we not talking about, okay, let's bring people who has the fund to invest in the business while it's still in the hands of government? Are you thinking in that direction?
It's not a bad idea, but you see, if we are patriotic as Nigerians, you will not dispute the fact that you have some Nigerians. When you gather some 10, 15 Nigerians, they can provide the funding that is required. Ajaokuta Iron and Steel Complex, they are asking for 200 billion naira to be able to be producing local needs of Nigeria. Just 200 billion. And I think it's something we can generate in our nation here, even within the complex, the country. Look, it is the fact that we are most Nigerians who are endowed, who are blessed, who have the resources, they prefer to invest outside this country. People take money in Nigeria and take it outside this country, and they don't believe in our nation. This is the problem. People are funding money in this country. They are go and check the foreign banks. Go and check those who own accounts abroad. They can bring you back this money, and we can revamp some of these ailing industries without necessarily even getting foreign investors. It is not if they will not come with that money. For me, I'm not in doubt that my state government will be very willing to take over the burden of putting Iron and Steel Complex back on track and completion. It's just the will. Once you know this is our own, most people who are running the affairs of this country, they are sentimental, and that's why Nigeria has not moved forward. People do not see things as our collective wealth. They do not see it our nation. They see it, where is it located? Who are the owners? What is the tribe of those people? These are the problem of this country. Until when we have people who are patriotic, who see Nigeria as one united nation, and you work towards liberating our people from abject poverty and penury, and you want our nation to stand shoulder high with other nations of the world, we are not producing. What do you want us? How do we improve our currency? People are talking about exchange rate. What do you want to do with the exchange rate when you are not producing? We produce nothing. Iron and Steel Complex is crucial. It's the life of any modern nation, and we don't bother about it. I hold the view that there are investors, there are Nigerians who will be willing to invest Once
Absolutely.
you ask a state government to come into it, there are Nigerians who will
Thank
come
you very
willingly,
kindly, Senator. Thank you
and
very
they will
kindly.
put in their more resources.
Right. Yeah, your point is made. Thank you very much. We can see the passion you're speaking, talking about this particular issue, especially with the advocacy that it should be brought back to Kogi State. We'll see how all of these things go, because we have a lot of solutions, staring us in the face. We'll say thank you to the Senator representing Kogi West, Senator District at the National Assembly, Senator Smart Adeyemi. Thank you very kindly.
We'll get there. The Nigeria of your dream will come to
My pleasure.
reality.
Thank you.
Amen.
Thank you very kindly. Before we go on this very break, BK, I wanted to react to this. He talked about so many things, solutions. You also offered some solutions. So we have these solutions, staring us in the face, but we are not willing to do it. Is this to say that those who are in power are not just willing to do? Is it a willpower, or they know the solutions, they're not willing to do it?
Well, a suggestion may not necessarily be the solution. He has suggestions. All of us have suggestions. People have different ideas as per how the problem can be solved. Those ideas may not necessarily be solutions, but they are ideas that we can still try to see whether they can help us achieve our aim at the end of the day. One thing is certain. Senator Smart, being the senator representing that constituency, is passionate, is mad about the fact that we let Ajaokuta steel complex rot away, and he wants a solution. I, as a Nigerian, seeing how much we are spending importing, that's 2 quarters, so they are not saying the whole year, 870 something billion in just 2 quarters. And they may not even be, in my view, the highest, the 2 highest quarters in terms of our expenditure over the course of 1 year. For example, during the dry season, construction work, they do a lot more construction work. So during that time, we probably will spend a lot more importing what we have in abundance. We import refined crude, we import petrol that we have in abundance. And because we import petrol, we are unable to benefit even from the windfall that this Ukraine war is, because it's a windfall for oil-producing nations. A country like Saudi Arabia that has so many refineries, some of them dedicated to export, they are enjoying now. In our own case, it's a cost, because the higher the price goes up in the international market, the more subsidy, the higher the subsidy bill, and the higher the subsidy bill, the less money that we can use to develop other sectors. So it's a terrible situation that we find ourselves in our country.